For 51 years, this thing was like the Mount Everest of unsolved codes. It was a killer's taunt that completely stumped the FBI. And the key to finally unlocking it? Well, it wasn't found in some top-secret government lab, but on the laptops of 3 ordinary people. Okay, so picture this. It's November 8th, 1969. The Zodiac, a killer who's been terrorizing Northern California, sends a greeting card. And inside is this, a 340-character cipher. It was a direct challenge to the world, promising to reveal his identity to anyone smart enough to solve it. And for over half a century, nothing. It just held on to its secrets. I mean, the FBI threw everything they had at it. Even the NSA, with all its supercomputers and brainpower, apparently took a crack at it and came up empty. This thing became a legend for codebreakers, this seemingly impossible puzzle that just wouldn't break. And that's the big question we're digging into here. How in the world did a software developer, a mathematician, and a warehouse operator, from 3 different continents no less, succeed where the most powerful intelligence agencies on the planet had failed? The answer is an incredible story about technology, teamwork, and maybe most importantly, a totally different way of thinking. But before we get to the big win, we really have to talk about the failures. Because for decades, the Z340 was like a magnet for wild theories. It attracted countless sleuths, both amateur and professional, who were absolutely convinced they had the answer. Probably the most famous failed attempt came from Robert Graysmith, the author whose book inspired that movie Zodiac. He published a solution back in 1986, but wow, the FBI's analysis was just brutal. They said it was forced, which is a classic trap in code breaking. It's where you work backwards from a message you want to find, and you just cherry-pick letters until they fit your theory. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. It's all about confirmation bias. For 50 years, people were trying to make the cipher fit their favorite suspect, instead of just letting the cipher speak for itself. It was a total psychological dead end. So it was obvious a new approach was needed. And enter our heroes. David Oranchak from the US, Gerald Van Eyck from Belgium, and Sam Blake from Australia. They were part of this online community that brought a whole new level of scientific rigor and, crucially, a powerful new weapon to the fight. So to really get why this cipher was so tough, you have to understand the Zodiac's 2-part trick. First, he used what's called homophonic substitution. Basically, he gave common letters, like E, a bunch of different symbol disguises. That way, you couldn't just count the symbols to see which letters were most common. And then second, he used transposition, which means he scrambled the order of the message in a really complex pattern. You had to solve both problems at the exact same time. Right, and this is where the game totally changes. Gerald Van Eyck, who, by the way, was a warehouse operator by day, was also the creator of this incredibly powerful piece of software called AZ Decrypt. It was a highly specialized tool that could just tear through potential cipher keys at an unbelievable speed. It wasn't just looking for one answer. It could test millions of possibilities and score them based on how much they actually looks like real English. So, armed with this amazing tool and a brand new theory that the Zodiac had actually split his cipher into different sections, the team was ready to launch an all-out computational assault. And let me tell you, what an assault it was. They had figured out there were over 650,000 different ways the Zodiac might have scrambled the message. Every single one of those variations had to be run through AZ Decrypt. It was a monumental search for a single needle in like an astronomical haystack. And then, on December 3rd, 2020, it happened. Buried in a mountain of digital nonsense, one of the variations spit out these little phrases. They were fragmented, sure, but the tone, it was unmistakable. The taunts, the trying to catch me, the gas chamber. It sounded exactly like the Zodiac. This was the big eureka moment. The team zeroed in on that one promising variation, and they fed those little phrases they found back into the software to help guide its search. And just like that, the first section of the cipher unlocked. After 51 years of silence, the code was finally talking. The final chilling message had this key detail. That wasn't me on the TV show. Now, this was a direct reference to a guy who had called into a live TV show just weeks earlier, claiming to be the Zodiac. This little contemporary detail was the final proof. This wasn't a forced solution. This was the real deal. So look, the solution was this amazing triumph of brute force computing power mixed with pure human ingenuity. But this story isn't just about the past. It's really a preview of what's coming. I mean, if specialized software can crack a 50-year-old cipher, what happens when we start applying the power of modern AI to other cold cases? And this isn't just about cracking codes. The Z340 solution is part of a quiet revolution that's happening right now, where technology is breathing new life into investigations that went cold decades ago. Just think about another famous case. While the Zodiac cipher was solved by unscrambling information, the Golden State Killer was caught just 2 years earlier using AI-assisted DNA analysis. For that case, algorithms sifted through public genealogy websites to build a family tree from crime scene DNA. So you have two different cold cases, two totally different methods, but there's one common theme: processing enormous amounts of data to find a connection nobody could see before. But with all this incredible power comes a whole bunch of really complex and urgent ethical questions. This technology, it's a real double-edged sword, and we need to be extremely careful about how we use it. And this forces us to ask some hard questions, like where do we draw the line? Using public DNA databases, for example, raises huge privacy flags for people who never even took a DNA test, but whose relatives did. Plus, AI tools can make mistakes. Sometimes they're called hallucinations, and that could point police toward completely innocent people. These aren't some far-off sci-fi problems. This is happening right now. And this is the ultimate challenge, right? The Zodiac cipher was solved, which is an amazing achievement. We have these incredible new tools that are only getting more powerful. We've proven they can deliver a certain kind of justice. But as they become more and more a part of law enforcement, we're left with this critical question. How do we harness all this power to solve the impossible without accidentally sacrificing the very principles of fairness and privacy we're all trying to protect in the first place?